Your microphone's not on.
Oh, my microphone's not on. Andrew, can you hear us?
I can you hear me?
Yep, awesome.
All right.
Thank you. So, welcome to the Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals, Tuesday, April 9th, 2024 meeting. This is a hybrid meeting. If dialing in on a phone, please use *6 to mute and unmute yourself. We are being taped by MCTV. Everyone's here, so I don't have to do a roll call. And let's start with A 2420 Kerry Viola.
You want to do that first,
Stop
get
right.
these out of the way?
I already just
Yeah.
started these coming up. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1012 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to construct a 30-foot by 14-foot addition rear of the existing dwelling on
114 Allen Street.
114 Allen Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel L070510, located at the R3 zoning district. Go ahead.
Good evening. Rick Savant with Stenbeck and Taylor. These homeowners on Allen Street are proposing to put a small addition for an expanding family off the back of the house, 14 by 30. The house is non-conforming to the property lines. The new addition won't create any new non-conformity. We're going to match existing sideline setbacks, and it will conform with the rear. That's essentially what we're here tonight for that special permit for an extension of a non-conforming.
Any questions from the board? Andrew, you have anything for us here? How's the floodplain, all that stuff?
No, he was saying exactly the situation here, 10 feet from the sideline,
All right.
spending it.
And somehow out of the floodplain.
It's not,
It is
So
not.
next, not in the flood zone.
okay. Anything from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing that there's none, I'm gonna move to close 2420 Kerry Viola, Allen Street, butchering that name.
Vulo.
Second, Vulo,
Second.
all in favor?
Corvenzzi, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Coe, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
All right, and now I'm going to move that the board vote to grant the petitioner's request for a special permit, subject to the conditions of a building permit, a as-built, and a certificate of occupancy, based on the finding that the applicant's proposal to construct a 30-foot by 14-foot addition on the rear of the existing dwelling on the property located at 114 Allen Street, as shown in a hand-drawn sketch plan, certified location plan by Christian Walsh by Stenbeck and Taylor Incorporated, dated 2/28/24, Richards Font, PLS, meets the special criteria, section 1012 of the bylaw. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Corvenzzi, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Coe, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you. So
Excellent.
Rick, you've got 2421 96 Beach Street, Realty Trust. You're going to withdraw without prejudice?
We are withdrawing that without prejudice, yes.
So I have a motion to withdraw without prejudice.
Second,
All in favor?
Corvenzzi, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Coe, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
Okay? Excellent. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night. Thank you
You
very
too.
much.
Want to do
Thank
quirk?
you.
Want to do quirk?
Yeah, I'm going to do quirk, and then we'll get into Maitland. So 2422 Quirk Cars Incorporated, the petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-1010 and 305-902, site plan approval in accordance with 305-1202, and such other further relief pursuant to the Marshfield Municipal Code as necessary to raise and reconstruct the existing commercial building formerly known as Cabillion's Car Care and Harper Auto Body, and construct a new commercial building for an automotive dealership-related uses consistent with the authorization of the Marshfield Conservation Commission on the property located at 903 Plain Street, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel D100202 and is located in the I-1 zoning district. So we're going to move this to 528. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Corvenzzi, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
So now we'll move on to Maitland. I don't have to read that in because it's already been read.
Good evening.
Good evening. So I'd say before we start, Ed can update us. We had a meeting with the Board of Public Works and environmental partners. Ed, would you like to speak on that at all?
Sure. For the record, I'm Ed Pesci of Pesci Engineering, the consulting engineer for the zoning board. As Brian has mentioned, we had a meeting with the Board of Public Works representatives and town engineer, as well as folks from environmental partners, and myself and Pat Brennan and Brian Murphy. So as a team of about, 10 of us all together. I was participating via Zoom, but it was a meeting that was held on the 19th of March. We went over, excuse me, and I forgot Ed Eichner, our consulting scientist for the project. We were looking at nitrogen loading. We were looking at the proposed scope of work that the environmental partners were planning to provide. They're looking at the analysis of the Church and Ferry Street wells and the nitro systems that were proposed and the impact on the aquifer in general. We asked a bunch of questions. They gave us fairly decent answers, fairly understanding the scope of concern that we had, making sure that they at least heard the comment from myself that not only, are we looking at a nitrogen loading source from a proposed development here, but we also need to consider the other 3,000 plus or minus 3,000 individual parcels that are also donating nitrogen to the aquifer, and that those aren't being analyzed as heavily, are certainly not being looked upon for advanced wastewater treatment like this project is. So I think everybody understood the understanding that while the project is going to take on some new information on this project and input it into a newer, more modern model, groundwater analytical model, it will generate some answers to help understand the impact not only of this project, but of the rest of the residential properties in the aquifer, in the zone of contribution for the wells. So I think at this moment, we're hopeful that they get their work done and get us a preliminary report sometime in May. We explained the concern that we had over making sure time is managed properly on this, because the board had already started the clock with the application on this, and that there was concern that we move expeditiously, and I think they understood that.
Ed, just so I'm clear, this report is coming from the town's expert?
Is coming from the environmental partners team that the Board of Public Works hired, yes.
Thank you.
We will get a chance to review it. Myself, Pat Brennan, Ed Eichner, will all get a chance to review it and give them our peer review comments. So at least we'll have a balanced, I think, understanding or balanced view of this. But we await their information. We await their final report. Also, since our last meeting, I asked for, and Darren Grady and Grady Consulting and the applicant met with us, and Pat Brennan, so Kevin Seelan, Pat Brennan, Darren, and yourself again, Chairman Brian Murphy, at Grady Consulting to review the remaining comments, site work, and traffic comments that were still unresolved. And we successfully discussed a number of things, not the least of which was the outstanding site work comments, and the outstanding traffic comments, which are only a couple, of comments. And since that time, the applicant has provided some revised information. I think you all now have in front of you a set of plans that are revised as of April 3rd. We have a revised construction O&M plan. And I was just going to ask, you're Gabriel, I assume?
Yeah.
No?
No, I'm
Where is
here,
he?
right here, I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry?
I'm here, yes.
I was going to have Gabriel, who's representing Brady Consulting here, kind of give a quick overview on that. Unfortunately, Darren's wife is not feeling well, and she's in the hospital, but she's doing well. But I told him to take care of business, and Gabriel gets to be the pinch hitter tonight for Brady Consulting.
Thank you.
You also have with you a response letter, comment response letter dated April 3rd, which lists the changes that were made both to the site plans and the responses to traffic comments. So I had a chance to go over this with Pat Brennan. Pat unfortunately has a conflict tonight, but he and I are on the same page on things. Virtually all of his previous comments have been addressed. Virtually all of my previous comments have been addressed. We're really only down to a couple of minor things. I mean, really, three items, I think, is all I have. But I explained to Darren that our scope for tonight was to talk about where we were site-wise, site comment-wise, traffic comment-wise, and to discuss, I would like to give an overview to the board so the board understands where we stand, or what the proposal is for earth removal. So also provided by the applicant just recently, and I don't think you guys have copies
No,
yet.
they gave it.
You got a copy. One of the traffic comments involved, and I'll just read to the board what that comment is. This is from Sean Kelly of Chappelle Engineering. It was a reiteration of an outstanding comment. The applicant has provided proposed gravel travel route, for trucks hauling materials for the project site as part of the construction operation and maintenance plan. The proposed route will utilize the Clay Pit Road to Furnace Street to access Plain, Main, and other means as a means of reaching Route 3 or 3A. We continue to recommend that the applicant provide auto turn or vehicle tracking to ensure vehicles are able to navigate the intersections of Clay Pit Road with Ferry Street with Furnace Street, Furnace at Main, which is 3A, and Furnace at Plain, which is Route 139. I discussed this with Sean again today, actually Friday, and again today with the latest turning templates, and I want to thank Brady Consulting for preparing this. I will say that of the 4 intersections I just mentioned, what you have in front of you is not one of those. But also a very important intersection is where the access road comes from the town property down through that industrial area, so the access road to Clay Pit Road. So at least they've done that due diligence to show us that. I discussed this further with Sean Kelly today, and then we agreed to knock 2 of those other intersections off the list because we don't believe they are a concern after all. One is the intersection of Furnace and Main and Furnace at Plain. We know that those are both Mass DOT functioning intersections, well understood by all. I understand that. The other 2, Clay Pit Road, Ferry, and Ferry with Furnace, are smaller residential intersections that trucks will navigate. I believe it's really Clay Pit and Furnace, and Ferry are the real concern, but I did call Darren today and mention that to him, and Gabe, I think he was supposed to reach out to you and just ask. And I asked him, would you please, and I'm not asking you to go out and survey, but I asked you to get out onto Google Earth or some other remote sensing aerial photography, figure out where the edges of roads are, and draw that in CAD and put it into auto turn and show us how that your proposed 28-foot truck, which is a dump truck, not a trailer dump, not a regular, but a 20-ton dump truck, could navigate through there. I believe they will be okay. He has stated to me, and he meaning Darren Grady, stated to me repeatedly that Mr. Seelan has a large amount of experience using those roads with his truck traffic, and I said, I completely acknowledge that. I know that that's something that is certainly important, but to document for the record for the zoning board, I needed to have something a little more definitive just to have in your record. So nobody could look at this and say, why didn't you look at this? I just want to make sure we protect the board. He understood, and he said he would get that to me. Again, we have some time to get that, but that's the only outstanding traffic comment there is.
Go ahead from the audience. I mean, sorry, no, not you, Dave. We're going to do this first, and then you can comment. Thank you.
Okay, but it was a comment that he made.
Thank you. We're going to do this first, and then you can comment. Thank you.
It's timely to do it now.
It probably makes sense for me to have Gabe Petrilla from Grady Consultant go over the changes to the plan, as Mr. Pesci alluded to, if that's okay with the board.
Sure.
Gabe?
Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon.
Could we just get your name and,
Yes, Gabriel Padilla with Grady Consulting.
thank you.
So the changes within the plans, pretty much reading off of the letter that you all received. Lighting plans have been revised to add lighting on the driveway within the right-of-way. That is the right-of-way going up towards Ferry Street. Originally did not have lighting. We added that lighting in that area. Silt sock on sheet 13 has been revised to silt fence since the slopes are designed at a 401 slope. Pretty simple change of details. Turtle exclusion fence locations have been added to the plan. We have located 8 areas where we're going to have the turtle fencing, and they're scattered around the site. The truck trip calculations from the construction operation maintenance plan have been added to sheets 1, 8, and 13. The truck trip calculations both include a 40 and a 30 truck trip per day scenario. Both are completed within 1 year. That would be on the first page of the plan. It shows the truck trips based off of 40 trucks or 30 trucks. And just to clarify, those 40 and 30s would still be within the hours of operation. The construction operation maintenance plan has been updated, as requested. Oil grid separator has been modified. Bypass piping has been added to the plan. General drainage. Column N has been added to sheet 9, show calculated breakout elevation, and columns KLM have been revised to reflect a 75-foot long trench. That was the information on the inverts. We corrected all that information, and the call-out note for note 8 on the Nitro 2 km sack detail has been removed. Those were generally the changes that we had in the plan from the previous submission. The other comments were the traffic comments that Ed shared with the board. And if there are any questions, I would be glad to answer them.
Do you have anything? Ed?
Yes. So, two quick things, Gabe. I note that the lighting plan shows the photometrics right up to the edge of the road, but not showing out to 0. So the only place that I'm concerned about is the lighting, which we need to have at the bridle crossing trail at the proposed covered structure. So we do need to have the lighting. I just want to make sure when we do the site visit next Tuesday that I confirm, could you please just stake where that is, where that
Okay.
crossing is, if it's not already? And I just want to confirm there's enough tree cover between that and the nearest abutter. It looks like it's only a couple of tenths of a foot candle that are on the edge of the road, so that, again, the photometrics didn't go out to 0, they just went to the edge of the road.
Right.
I just want to make sure to protect the board, all the lighting is downward facing, dark sky compliant, so that's certainly what we want to see. I just want to make sure it's not a nuisance to the abutters, and we'll confirm that when we're out there. Item 2 on the list, the silt sock has been removed and replaced with the silt fence. However, on sheet 14, it still says silt sock on the call-out, on the, pointing to the, pointing to the line. So if you'll just,
I will fix it.
that's a minor issue. And I think that's it. Oh, could you please go over, maybe you don't know, Gabe, I don't know if you do, but could you just explain what changes were made to the construction operations and maintenance plan? Because it didn't leap out at me what that was.
The changes, I discussed this with Darren pretty quickly, so I'm sorry I'm not too well versed on the changes here, but they were pretty minimal. We have the construction times are set. He mentioned the grinding or remove stumps from the site has been included. And we also included the truck routes, which show the trips that the trucks take going into 3A and Route 3. And as far as I can tell, those were the changes. I'm sure there are many others, not so many, but
Okay?
that's as far as I can tell.
7 a.m.
I believe that Darren Grady's also on Zoom, if you want to give him an opportunity to chime in.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yep. I know he was going to try to do that. I wasn't sure if,
Andrew is,
Good evening, this
There he
is-
is.
there he is, yep. Go ahead,
Can
Darren.
you hear me?
yep.
So, yeah, the changes to the construction operation, maintenance plan were very minor, as David has stated. We changed the hours of operation to be in line with other construction sites in town. We're beginning with 7 a.m. ending at 4:30 p.m. for all truck traffic and construction. And we'll be locking down the site between 4:30 and 6 p.m. This will give the construction crews time to clean up, put tools away, secure the site, and leave the site. That was the biggest change in there.
What were the hours?
Okay. 7 to 4:30.
What were they?
7 a.m. to 4:30. I don't remember what they were before. I'd have to look it up.
I think they were like 8 a.m. and I think we had 4:30
It's
as
Mon-
the stop.
It's Monday through Friday, not Saturday and Sunday, though.
Darren, if you're doing 30 to 40 trips per day, how long is the earth removal anticipated to take? I know you said in less than a year. Can you give us a rough ballpark?
It is on the plan.
Can you go back to the plan?
Yeah, it's between 120 working days and 160 working days. 40 truck trips per day is 120, and 30 truck trips per day is 160.
Logistically, can you do more trips per day to shorten that window?
Yes.
I just don't know how fast you can load the trucks.
I believe we can do faster. I don't have a number I can state. Kevin Seeland might have a number that he could share that he's done with his experience.
Well, here,
Darren, what I'm thinking is that if I live next door to this, I want the truck trips to be over as soon as possible. And obviously, I don't want to go in 7 days a week, but if you're in operation 7 to 4:30, if you can do more during that time frame, it's academic. If it's 6 or 8 or 10 or 12, you're operating within that time frame, 7 to 4:30. My thought is, let's get it over as soon as possible.
Brian, I did some math when I did the original response letter, peer review letter, and I calculated for 40 trucks a day, 8-hour day, that's one truck every 12 minutes. And I felt that that was a little optimistic, so I said, okay, let's calculate it, 30 truck trips a day, and I thought that was more reasonable. There are 251 working days in a year, removing all the weekends and holidays. So if it's 30 truck trips per day, they're still at 160 working days. which is obviously 90, 89 working days less than a full year's worth of working days. So I think they're trying to make a good effort at it, and
Yeah.
the more they can make it, the faster, I'm sure they'll do, but I just felt like at least we ought to look at both 40 and 30, because 40 is maybe the best case, when nothing's broken down,
Yeah.
and everybody's going
Sure.
smooth, the Red Sox are winning, and it's nice weather, okay? And I just don't know if that'll happen every
So
single
if
day.
it's 30 and ends up being 35 a day for whoever, it's not a big deal.
Correct.
Right, so they can, if they're in the position to do better, they can. But
Exactly.
If not, it's reasonable. I mean, every
And it's
12
an
months
estimate
is
of
good.
125,000 cubic yards. My original letter estimated 150,000 cubic yards. It was still less than a year. So I know that's perhaps only partial comfort to the people that live next door, but at least it's not several years as was the previous project concept.
Absolutely.
Can I get back to you with a more aggressive number? I'll work it out with Kevin to see if he thinks we can do more. And if we can, I can add it to the plan, and you guys can make a decision. You can add it to your decision if you would like.
Thank you, Darren.
From the applicant's perspective, we'd certainly be happy to accelerate it to the extent that we can without restriction. So the sooner the better.
I mean, is there any safety concerns, the trucks whipping in and out and all that kind of stuff? I mean, 7 in the morning's pretty
7
early. We have high school buses going and what have you. I mean, I don't know how many buses go by that area at all, you know, the main roads there. So I'm a little concerned about that at that time, where the bus stops are around there. I'm not really sure about where they are over that area. I'm just asking.
There's a bus
like-
stop right at the end of Clay Pit Road.
Okay, so, like, I'm a little concerned about that early when there's buses coming in and out until like probably 8:30 or 8:15 or something.
These
'cause-
drivers are all professionals.
No, I get that. I mean, Mr. Salem's been around forever too, not to date you or anything, but, you know, is well established, but still, I just want to, on a safety concern.
Absolutely.
I mean, 40 trips a day is 5 in an hour. Again, if he's got 2 front-end loaders loading the truck from one side or the other, they'll go faster. If it's only one.
8-hour day.
That's an 8-hour day, correct. So I had to make some assumptions to start the calculations, just to give an idea, okay, just to give a feel what it would do. And I thought, okay, that's not a, you know, that's an optimistic fill rate and move rate, but 4 trucks an hour, absolutely. Should have no problem doing that. But getting prepared and ready, yes. But,
You know, as you point out, assuming no equipment breaks down,
right.
which can happen.
Your question on truck trips?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yep, you gotta go up to the mic. Name and address.
Could, Anna Lambert, 25 Liberty Road. Could you put the page up that showed the truck trips? That one, yes. Okay. So, first of all, that's a whole lot of ground removal going on. 40 trucks a day. Oh, it just sounds like a whole hell of a lot. I don't understand why we went back from 8 a.m. to 7 a.m. You know, 7 a.m., it's like you said, the school buses, you know, it's people are trying to get to work. It's bad enough getting stuck behind a school truck, a school bus, let alone, you know, these big gravel trucks, right? So I would definitely say let's go back to 8 o'clock, not 7 o'clock. That's heavy commute hour. People are trying to get out of town. They're using those roads to get to Route 3, to get to Route 139. That's number one. Number two, given that truck traffic and the weight of those trucks, I would request that the project owners put into escrow amounts of money.
That's outside the scope of what we're allowed.
Okay, there should be something.
That's outside the scope of what we're allowed.
Okay, well, there's something to be said about what's going to happen to our roads. I don't know why that's outside the scope, because their
It
trucks are going to be impacting our roads. Why is that outside the
Yeah,
scope?
that's
please?
outside the scope of what we're allowed to enforce.
So no allowance for all these trucks per day carrying this huge tonnage of,
Nope, they come in every day, and they go down Clay Pit Road, and they are there before 7 o'clock in the morning as well, and they leave before 7 o'clock in the morning as well.
okay, I'm getting apples and oranges there, but,
So this
Okay,
is not
so-
actually unlike any other permit around town, any other project around town that doesn't actually require a permit to do this. So this is not unreasonable, what they're asking, but they could have bigger trucks to do, we don't really want that. So, we're kind of trying to find a nice medium for everybody to be able to get the project done if it's so approved, and to make sure we take care of the town, the roads, the whole situation. So all of it has been reviewed and is still continuing to be reviewed, but this is what they've come up with as a reasonable compromise to work
Okay.
it out. Because we don't want larger trucks there.
I still maintain that 8 AM would be much, I don't live in that part of town, I don't have a
Right.
horse in this race, but I know what it's like getting stuck behind a school bus when you're trying to get to work. I used to commute, right?
Right.
And having 5 trucks in front of the school bus, I mean, so.
They still all have to go at the same speed limit, they all have to do the same thing all the other cars are doing, so my
I'm just
concern
suggesting that it be
mainly
moved
with the bus
back.
stops and what have you, but it will all be taken into consideration,
Yeah,
so.
I'm just suggesting that it be moved back to 8 o'clock. I don't know why
Yep.
it was moved to 7 AM.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Name and address for the record. And
Anne
this
Marie
is-
Sacchetti, 72 Holyoke Ave. I've lived in that area for 28 years, and I'll tell you, the traffic on that road since I've been there has increased 1,000-fold. But my main concern is you all have a task to think about. The school buses, there's trucks coming out of Clay Pit Road, transfer station traffic, and I'll tell you, those buses in the morning, the traffic is backed up. You've got the elementary school, you've got the middle school, you've got the high school. There's 3 different time changes there. And you've got those big trucks coming out of what used to be Situate Precast. Those trucks are massive, and I understand if this project goes through, you want to get that dirt out of there as fast as you can, but there is safety to take into consideration. And I've lived there for, as I said, for a long time, and you have to understand the impact that this project is going to take in that area. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead.
David Carrier, 34 Outlook Road. And through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Pesci. In your meeting with the Public Works Department and the consultants, was the water supervisor, Paul Duross III, present at the time?
I don't
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, you made the comment about the existing housings and the nitrate loading that puts into the aquifer in that area. And this is a memory which for Ferry One I am pretty confident of because I was the superintendent of public works at the time that was constructed. I know what Weston and Sampson's sampling and groundwater testing showed at the time where we were citing that well, that it had virtually no nitrate detectable, okay? And there is a history within the documentation that we've done, that I should say the water department has had to do during my tenure on the board, when the DEP started to require the testing for PFAS, that there's a correlation between nitrates and PFAS. So that says that the nitrate coming down out of the existing dwellings is not really contributing much load to either Ferry 1 or Ferry 2. I don't know the statistics on Church Street because I haven't had any concern to look at those. But, you know, one thing I do know is that the construction of this site and also the runoff and the drainage that is going to come out of those buildings, you know, from natural occurrences and stuff like that, as well as the septic system's operations, are contributing additional groundwater into the area that will, in fact, influence the flow of the existing groundwater. Okay, so any change in nitrate may be a combination of 2 things. The real bottom line comes down, from my perspective, I only have one real dog in this fight, so to speak, and that was bylaw 285-19.1, which says that you will not introduce the PFASs during construction and/or other physical work activities. There is no currently regulation with regard to septic systems and PFAS. However, the DEP, and it's in the report that I provided that was done by the joint committee that looked at the PFASs, you know, they are currently having sewage systems examine sewage discharge effluents for 16 different PFASs. Currently, 6 are regulated. More may be coming, and that's the concern, that ultimately all of us will be dealing with our septic system someday way down the line, if not including the sewage system, because it's going to be regulated by what it puts into the ocean for effluent.
Thank you.
To basically make the statement, if you didn't, were you presented figures on the nitrate loading at the wells at the time, your discussion?
We discussed the calculations for nitrogen loading that the applicant provided.
No, I'm
and
talking
the ones
about-
that we evaluated and that Ed Eichner provided.
Okay, but I mean, when you mentioned the other houses and the contributions, so you had no knowledge of of how much nitrate
Well, you
was
just
actually
said-
in the well effluent?
But you just said two things.
Yep.
You just said that your evaluation in your previous tenure,
Yep.
evaluation of those wells were quite clean. It was very low nitrate.
Yes.
But you also said that nitrates and PFAS are correlated.
Yes,
So,
they tend to be, yes.
so then why would there be a problem for this subdivision then, or this development, if there's no problem with the other 3,000 single-family homes in the region?
Right now-
In the aquifer?
Currently, right now, there are only 3 well sites in town in which the PFASs are at a range where we have to deal with them, and they're just pre-existing carbon filter systems that make the difference. The other place happens to be right in the neighborhood I live in because of Webster 1 and Webster 2, and the close proximity of the housing to all of the Zone 1s and Zone 2s. And the nitrates are high there, but the PFASs correlate with them. They're higher than what we have, but they are still below the regulatory concern at this time.
Right, and they
And that is-
probably will be forever, I hope, but,
Since DEP is always ratcheting down on regulatory contaminant, I don't think that's a correct statement, sir.
I will tell the board that the environmental partner study that's being done under the Board of Public Works is not focusing on PFAS. Okay? At this point, they're looking at this project and other things going on in the aquifer, redoing the model, and coming up with a good understanding of what the impact, if any, will be on the public water supplies. But I'm hopeful and confident that that the nitrate removal system, the advanced wastewater treatment system that the applicant is proposing, and the amount of nitrates that are modeled to go into the aquifer will still comply with the Water Resource Protection Overlay District requirements of 5 ppm.
And we'll have that report in May? We should have it by May?
We should have a draft.
Do we have a meeting date in May, Nancy?
It's May 14th.
Thank you.
We did talk about
Yeah.
the upcoming date,
did.
and
Yeah.
they wouldn't promise anything, but they're aware of it.
Well, they weren't even aware of the existing homes. They currently weren't studying that when we met that day, but they were going to add that to the study.
Right.
From what I understood, they told us that they weren't using any new information. They were using existing information, and they were going to put that into a new model, because the model that we're currently using is 30, 40 years old. That was my understanding. So, go ahead.
Good evening, Maureen Purcell, 26 Church Street. I had 2 questions. One's about dirt, and then one's about the plan that maybe
Could you
I have to address
We
to you.
didn't catch your name.
I didn't get
Maureen Purcell. So it's my understanding that the sand removal is tied into the PNS for this.
The what?
The purchase and sale.
What is tied into it?
The sand removal, being able to take the sand out to sell the land.
the earth removal.
That's not true.
That's not true. Okay. So I'll continue with my question. Could we build this development and not take as much sand out? Like, do we?
That's been addressed. We've done the best we can. We were at 625,000 yards to begin with. We went to 355,000 yards after a couple of reiterations. We're now at 120,000? 125. So that is.
But does that have to come
Yes,
out?
it does. In order for lawful construction,
Okay.
that is what they're presenting.
Okay. My other question is, could we get some clarification or tell us how the covered bridge would work
We'll get into that later on, but yeah.
later on tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
You've already spoken. So do we have anything else from you guys that we're doing on the, I know we were going to do the fill removal as well tonight.
Yeah, I think we're here to talk about that, and I think we also should have somebody here for traffic if there's any
Right,
questions
that's
about
what we
that.
wanted to go over, so.
That's pretty much where we're at. We have, for the record, we have submitted an updated waiver request and a draft decision.
Okay.
So, other than that, I think that between myself and Grady Consulting, that's what we've done since we were last year.
All right.
I have a quick question.
If I may,
Listen,
Mr. Chairman.
listen to me. You've already spoke, you can speak later on if it's pertinent. Please
Yeah,
have a seat.
I would
Please have a
have
seat.
raised this before
Please
if
have a
I'd
seat.
known I only had
Okay.
one shot.
Just a quick question, I'm assuming that when I read the construction, operation, and maintenance plan, the security of the site between the hours of 4:30 PM and 6 PM. So I read that as, it's only gonna be secured for an hour and a half. That's what you say, it will be secured between that time and then be secured overnight.
Yeah, I think what Mr. Grady was
Sorry,
explaining is.
that's how I read
Yeah,
the
we'll
word.
look at that language and make sure it addresses that concern. But what we're trying to say is, after the last trip, they'll need to clean up, and it could take
Oh,
an hour and a half. And then it'll be secured and locked at 6 o'clock, and we'll make sure it reads that way.
All right, I just thought that was a missed typo from 4:30 PM to maybe 6 AM or something.
It probably could be more precise, and we'll look at
That's
it.
all right, I'm
Yeah.
glad to get that clarification.
Thank you.
Annette.
So I think,
Hello,
hello, do you,
Martin Filardi from Damon's Point Road. I have a
oh, okay,
question.
sorry, we're not taking questions right now. We're going through what we're doing, and then I'll be taking.
Okay,
So, everything we've been through tonight, we did the traffic, now the removal of the material. I think we,
Talked about the quantity, talked about the truck route. There is some additional work that we've asked them to do to look at turning movements at 2 intersections.
right,
Ferry and, Clay Pit and Ferry and Furnace and Ferry. That would be the remaining, unresolved item.
okay.
There's a couple, as you heard me describe, there's a couple minor items on the site plans, but they've addressed, 99% of all of our previous peer review engineering comments, both myself and Pat Brennan's. I know we certainly have a better looking project at this point, as to all this fine tuning. I guess I really wanted to make sure the board understood what the earth removal was all about, how many truck trips it was, and the traffic routes, and then I think you will have a better feel for a few things out on the site at our site walk next Tuesday.
Right, so that's the other thing we have to discuss, is the site visit is only gonna be for the town officials, town consultants, and the zoning board of appeals, because the applicant does not want
Yeah, that's actually,
public on his private property.
we have liability.
Liability, at least the town is covered for it, but
That's right.
the constituents aren't. Okay, so just
They're
wanted to
not
make,
allowed on private
right,
property.
just wanted to make sure that was clear.
I appreciate that.
I thought we could get them on at the last meeting. So, and then is there anything else, Ed? Well, I mean, obviously, I'm gonna ask for a 45-day extension of time, and, if we don't need the full amount of time, we won't, but I would like to have the water study come in, and they, Environmental Partners has said they'd have it to us by the end of May.
Yeah, I think we expected that, and I don't think we have a problem. By my calculations, 180 days is May 13.
It is.
So I was wondering if it would be possible to set a date for closing the hearing and then to extend, time for.
Just to add in for that would be fine.
So our next meeting is May 14th.
Right.
So if we could have the hearing closed then presumably, and then 30, whatever time the board needs.
Well, I just want enough time to get.
Oh, that's right.
I want to get the water study in, and I want to have our experts review it so we can understand what it is. I just think it's beneficial to all of us to at least see that information prior to our decision.
You don't want to close it without having all the stuff that we need.
I understand. So what would you propose?
Well, give us a 45-day extension, and then if we can close it with, earlier than that, of course, we will do that.
So that would be July 1.
I'm not saying we're going to need the full 45 days. I don't want to be squeezed for time to close this, walk through it, and we want to see this information that comes in from the water study. Everyone does.
So if the report doesn't show up, then what?
No, they have promised us by the end of May.
I get that, but if the report doesn't show up, then what? Do we extend again?
No, that probably won't happen. I have full faith from what I was explained. They told us that it's not like they're using any new information. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're using existing information. All they're doing is putting it into a new model to see what comes out on the other end.
I'll be happy to share my thoughts on it, but I'm on a team of other people, but
If the report
regardless of what that report says, that's going to provide us all, and I think we're all in agreement on the fact that that's going to provide us existing conditions.
Correct.
So whether the hearing is extended or closed last week or today or next month or whenever it is, that's not going to change that report.
We're asking for 45 days.
Yep.
Would it be possible to do 30, and that if more is needed, we could give the 15?
Well, 30 only puts us to June, that you're squeezing us into meetings that we don't have.
Okay. I was just asking because if the report doesn't show up, then we're going to keep kicking the can down the road.
It's not going to happen.
I appreciate
I have full faith. We've discussed this, and just as I told you, from what I understand, it's not that they already have all the information. They're just putting it into a new
I think 45 days would be okay.
And as I look at it, you meet on June 11? Is that
Yes.
right? So, okay.
All right, thank you. So do we have, I think that's all we needed, the 45, anything else anyone can think of?
I'm going to reserve the right to go back after the site visit to a couple questions for Ed
Sure.
on a couple issues that I.
Oh, yeah, no, we're still going to be.
No, I just want to make sure it's on the table that I'm coming back to some stuff.
So now, did anyone from the audience have any further questions? Yeah, I'm going to ask about, it's in the drawing tonight. What was your question?
Hi, I'm Martin Filardi. I live on Damon's Point Road. I have two questions. One is about the trucks and the removal of the dirt. 125,000 yards. What is the damage going to be to the road system, and who is going to fix the road system? Is that the taxpayers of Marshfield?
Okay, they're going to get a permit to do the work they're doing. We have trucks go over our roads every day, and
But not 125,000 yards within the,
it's much more than that, so
so you're going to...
it's removed from this town, yes.
So you're saying there's, it'll be...
Trucks are on our roads
negligible.
every day. We had all the calculations on our original study of in our traffic study.
Okay.
We did that, so.
My other question has to do with the septic systems that have a backup generator and pumps.
All right, we already discussed all this information at our last meeting, so if you want to put something in writing, we had the experts here from that group. Put something in writing, you can send it to Nancy, and we'll get you an answer.
I did listen to those on Zoom. I do have a specific question about if a pump or generator fails, what does the town of Marshfield have as a recourse if it's not repaired?
So, Mr. Chairman, this exact scenario was brought up at the last
Brought up
hearing.
at the last meeting, I understand.
And not answering for the applicant, I'll just repeat what was said by John Smith and Darren Grady. John Smith of Clean 2 Technologies, the owner of the technology, the nitro system, septic system, and Darren Grady, of course, the project engineer. And Darren's here in the background as well, I think. But what was said was that the system does not need a pump to operate. It is an air blower, so the septic system continues to operate. The septic system will not back up without power. It's a gravity feed system. However, there won't be as good an advanced treatment because the oxygen going to the bacteria, the oxygenating, the denitrifying bacteria, for lack of a better term, there's an oxygen phase and a non-oxygen phase. They need the oxygen at the beginning of the process. That bacteria will continue to survive for 24 to 48 hours if there's no power. And if it goes longer than that, there'll be a periodic or a temporary dip in the performance of the removal of nitrogen. What Darren Grady's team provided last meeting was nitrogen loading calculations with 2 days of no power. In other words, 2 days of pretending it was a regular Title V system and going from 10 ppm to 35 ppm or higher. And it didn't change the overall nitrogen loading in the model as we are all using. It's a consistent model of the way we look at nitrogen loading calculations. It didn't change more than a couple of tenths of a ppm. So it was still below 5. It was 4 something to start, was 4 something, 4.1 and 4.2, I believe. So I'd have to actually look it up. I think I have it in this stack here, but those are the two things, those are the two scenarios we talked about. It could have gone 4 days. You could have done an analysis with 4 days, and it wouldn't have changed more than a tenth of a ppm in the way it was modeled. So I understand why the question's being asked. I understand there might be some discomfort, but there's really nothing to fear there. It operates on its own. It continue to operate. The bacteria doesn't die off instantly. It's not unplugging it out of the wall. They continue to live. They just won't live very well without the oxygen back online. So they also have real-time monitors. So they have sensors that they look at. They visit the site every week. Mr. Smith explained that they have real-time monitors, so if they go down, they're told they go down. So if power goes out, now the unit that sends the web signal goes away, they get notified that happens too. So they're able to do something about it. And a simple 5 kilowatt generator is all they would need to plug it back in. It takes less than 20 amps, less than a 15 amp circuit to just run that blower. So it's not a very big system because it's not their larger system. It's not the largest system. It's only for each building.
Thank you, Ed.
So the safeguards in place, and they're alerted, and it'll be taken care of.
There are some additional backups in place. They're considering using backup power, but I don't really see that as necessary.
Anything else?
Yes. I have a degree in biology, and I understand all of that. And my question has nothing to do with that, but if the system does fail for a month or 2 months, what recourse does the town of Marshfield have?
Because you understand that what we're talking about here is they are allowed, with a regular septic system, to build 64 bedrooms there.
Right.
So it's the 24 bedrooms different between 64 and 88. They're going to the Clean 2 system. Do you understand that?
I do understand.
Okay. So that difference is why they're going to the denitrifying systems.
Right. So my question is, if it is not working because they can't get a pump, they can't get a generator.
So you're saying that you're talking about the power being out for 30 days?
He's talking about Armageddon.
Yeah.
Or the
30 days, is that what you said?
Or the owner
slowing down.
has a financial issue and doesn't want to buy the part. The town of Marshfield cannot.
This is enough on that.
This is like
We have a permit condition. We have a permit condition that can be enforced if the system fails.
And what is that?
So
is that
there's
occupancy?
Safeguards in place for this.
But is that occupancy?
What do you mean?
I mean, what does a permit condition mean?
There's conditions in the permit that in the event that something happens with the system failing, whether it's occupied or not, doesn't matter, it's still a system if it's failing, then we can reinforce something. There's conditions to help protect the town.
To the extent that it might be helpful, any septic system fails, is deemed by the Board of Health not to be compliant with Title V. A cease and desist order would enter. Failure to do that, an occupancy permit would be pulled. We would be under the same guidelines as any other resident in the town of Marshfield. I would point out that this brand-new system is far less likely to fail than any system that's in the area, that's aged, that's a cesspool, or a system that's never been pumped because it has been properly cared for. So the town is going to be well protected by the regulations imposed by the state and the local regulations of the Board of Health. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a question?
I do have one
No,
other
she has a
question.
question. I'm all set with you.
Is it,
We're on her question now.
okay,
Thank you.
if it does fail,
Thank you.
you're not going
We're
to
on
kick
to your
anybody out of
question.
their
Thank you.
house.
Thank you.
Anna Lambert, apologies for double dipping, but I
It's
did
not
want
double
to...
dipping. If you have something new, then we'd like
Well,
you to add that.
I want to address something that Mr. Pesci said at the very beginning of the meeting when he brought up the meeting with the environmental partners at ATAL, that he was bringing up the 3,000 units and comparing them to this 88-bedroom development. That's apples and oranges. Those 3,000 homes are on average 4 bedrooms, and they're spread over many, many, many acres of
They're above
land.
the same aquifer.
They're above the same aquifer, but not the same well, as I understand it.
This
And the
is
well
not
that
above
this-
any well. This is above an aquifer.
Okay, then they're above the same aquifer, but they are 4-bedroom homes. I mean, I have a septic system.
A lot of them are failed septic systems.
one
No, a lot of them are
person.
failed septic systems that are
Okay.
leaching. They don't have any protection for nitrate.
As
Nitrogen
as a homeowner, when my system failed, we went out and we had a 4-bedroom system built, okay?
But you realize this is the
There's one
equivalent
of me.
of 22 4-bedroom homes. So you're saying you have one. Look at all the ones that are currently sitting above this aquifer. This is like adding 22 4-bedroom homes to it.
Yeah, but in 2 acres.
No, not 2 acres.
What is it? How many
So you
acres?
understand that they are allowed to build 64 bedrooms of right, meaning that they could put
Period,
in a
before
conventional septic system and build enough units that carry 64.
And
that
not
would
have
be
to
allowed.
appear before the ZBA.
What?
And not have to...
No, that is what they're allowed before they get into nitrogen loading.
Okay. I'm not Mr. Carrier, so I can't address that.
All right, well,
okay.
thank you. Greg
But I
has some-
do, but I
Greg,
do...
I think Greg would like to add something to the conversation.
Okay, but I do want to just, I mean, you know, the apples and oranges is that we're talking about home-owned. You know, if I could, if it wasn't beyond the scope, I would say that these 88 bedrooms and however many units it is, if it's 88, I thought it was 88 bedrooms.
88 bedrooms.
Okay, so in how many units?
That's
However,
22 4-bedroom homes.
okay, thank you for clarifying that. These 22 homes on however many acres this is,
15 acres.
15 acres, is still different than, hello? Is still different than 3,000 homes. And again, I really want to...
3,700 acres total, what, they all sit above the aquifer.
Okay, so there's a huge
They're
difference
all over
there.
the same aquifer, the same
Yeah,
septic
I
that comes from
understand
your
that.
house, except for the difference is this one has anywhere between 24 and 38 feet of material before it gets to the water table. Some of those homes out there don't even have 1 foot or in the water table. Yes, that's correct.
And they're not monitored. This will be monitored, the reports will be available.
Okay.
And we have
Then
water
I only
quality
have-
studies
Then I only
going
have
on.
one final point to make.
Go ahead.
okay? The apples and oranges is that these are renters proposed by the
That
applicant.
has nothing to, that, you're
and
done.
owners.
You're done
No,
talking. Thank you.
No,
Good night.
Ms.
It's a
Lambert,
huge
I'm just going to
difference.
clarify.
It's a
Excuse me.
huge
You're not gonna-
difference.
Excuse me,
not
I'm
gonna
just
have
going to
that kind of
They
talk.
clarify
should be
that.
condos,
Can I just
not
clarify?
apartments.
Ms. Lambert, please.
I'm
With all
sorry.
due respect,
Yeah.
it is an owned property. There is an owner of the property who is ultimately responsible for whatever goes on there. So just because there's renters, there is still an owner of the property who is responsible. And that is the last thing we're going to say about renters, discrimination, that's discriminate, we're not doing it. So we're all set with that. And
Are they
I-
going
And I
to
understand
send-
what you're saying, but it is
Is-
owned
then
by
this-
somebody and it is maintained and there is protections in place for the town.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about renters anymore.
I would hope there's an education program
Walter, we're
in
going to need
place.
the,
don't need to talk about
did
this
you do the
anymore.
45-day extension in writing?
I will. I'll get it to Nancy in the morning.
Thank you. I think that's it for tonight. Greg, do you have anything to add? No?
Ed, do you have anything else?
Hold on, wait.
Greg Guimond, Ice House Lane, Town Planner. There's also a fine, $300 a day for violation of the zoning, which could be levied against the project if they fail to do something.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ed.
I just want to correct the record. I mentioned that the scope of work for environmental partners may not have included PFAS. They're actually going to look at fate and transport of various constituents of concern that may be present in the wastewater, including nitrates and PFAS. So they are going to look at PFAS. How they're going to establish the initial concentration, they'll explain. But overall, what you said, Brian, Mr. Chairman, that they are going to take and review readily available documents, data, information to support the development of an initial conceptual model using a new software system. What was built, the model that was built before, was using ModFlow. ModFlow is the quintessential state-of-the-art it was from 1980 on, and now we've got some better models. So they're going to take some information, perhaps build a more thorough model. They'll look at other contaminants, perhaps also in the Sylvester Ray landfill. So not just our site, they're going to look at other things. And they're looking at at our site, certainly, but at whole site, or the project site, but a holistic impact on the Little Creek's aquifer.
And we're hoping to establish a baseline so we have a measurement going forward.
They're going to provide us some, recommendations, perhaps, on, I think, to both the Board of Public Works, and I think that's where we would start to chime in on what those recommendations are and evaluate them, determine whether you want to include any of those in your decision.
Thank you. You all set, Walter?
I am, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Seeing that there are none, so we're going to continue this to May 14th. Nancy, is that our next meeting?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
No other meeting in April.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Brian
Brian
Murphy,
Sullivan,
aye.
aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.
And we're confirming the 16th at 10 o'clock,
16th at 10 o'clock, correct.
right?
Yes, I'll get the
We'll be-
extension to...
We'll see, yeah, we'll get the extension, we'll see you there, thank you.
Move to adjourn?
Second?
Excuse me.
What's that?
Minutes?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, the minutes.
Does Larry Larry's not here.
No, but you guys can approve.
Yeah,
Covered bridge.
all right.
Are we,
I'd like to approve the minutes
Scrivener's errors.
with Scrivener's errors. All in favor?
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Mac Brothers abstain.
That's right.
excuse me, we didn't answer one of my questions that I had asked earlier.
Second.
All in favor?
Are we not answering the question?
No.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Adjourn. Heidi Conway, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
I didn't catch the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, Mac Brothers, aye.
Thank you.